Thank you, Joey. Hey, guys. Hello,
Hello.
everybody. My name is Jennifer Fry, and welcome to our Disruptor Discussions Masterclass. We do this every single week. This is our second season of Disruptor Discussions. Um, I am the CEO and founder of a business called Appreciated Asset, and what we do is we create, build, and fill sales pipelines for industry disruptors. And as my business has grown and really niched down on working specifically with disruptors, I realized very clearly in my own business and for my clients that there are zero problems that more revenue cannot solve in a business. And so we know this. And as much as we are on a mission to do that for our clients through our service, and our mission is to create a ripple effect for clients and helping them grow their footprint through our efforts. We knew that there are a lot of other experts that through their own areas of expertise in their own niche, they're really able to do the same for their clients as well, in that they can help them grow more revenue, bring in more revenue to their businesses, and take a lot of pressure off. Because life, man, it's a lot easier when you got more revenue coming in than expenses going out, right?
hmm
So we decided to start our Disruptor Discussions Masterclass last year because I'd met all of these incredible people. Hannah, I will give your bio in a minute, but I'm so happy to have you here. Because Hannah
So,
was actually so instrumental in this whole series. I don't even know if she knows that, but I'll share that in a minute.
oh,
Um, but our Disruptor Discussions is really a way to bring together the community on a weekly basis to share information. And some things are going to be super relevant to you. I know when I see something about a high achiever, I am all in because uh, being a high achiever is always who I've been, but man, does it come along with its own set of complications and challenges, right? So some of the things that we do are going to be relevant for you, and some of the things might not be, but you might be relevant to people that you know. So feel free to share our information as you guys come across it. We'd love to have you. Um, all right. So I am really excited to introduce Hannah to you. She's going to be presenting Knowing the Difference Between Functional Survival State and True Resilience as a High Achieving Leader. That title really, really resonated for me. So I'm really excited to hear about this. But I'm going to tell you guys some background about me and Hannah before I read her bio, which is insanely impressive. We met through a women's networking group that we're both a part of, and I think really just had some instant chemistry for a lot of reasons. But she is such a badass in the way she looks at leadership, in the way she addresses mental health in the workplace, and her area of expertise, the way she coaches people, um, just takes all of the judgment away, all of the shame away, and really helps people get to a new level of understanding about themselves. But I digress. So here's the thing about Hannah. Last year, we did a masterclass together about sales and mental health and kind of using resilience and what the connection was. We talked about stories that people give themselves about mental health and about sales and rejection, all those things. And we got great feedback from it. And I realized that, again, like we focus on sales, but we need to do this with so many areas of expertise because it all ties back into the way we run our businesses. So, Hannah, you really were like an instigator in getting this going. And I will forever be grateful to you for that.
oh, I'm honored. Honored.
So, Hannah, I'm going to read her bio and then we're going to hand things over to her to present. But you guys, we're going to be doing a hot seat. This is a new thing that we're doing this season. It's been super popular. If anyone based on this information would like to do a hot seat and get some like live coaching one-on-one with Hannah, which is a phenomenal opportunity, by the way, just DM, you can get with Joey, who's our producer, in the notes. You can send him a direct message and let him know you want to do it, or you can send it to me as well. If you have questions while she presents, please put it in the chat. We'll make sure to get to all of them. And then what else am I forgetting? Oh, what's new? I didn't mention what's new. So we are having a full circle moment here at Appreciated Asset. I like to share with you guys every week something new that that is on our plates. And as a high achiever, there's always something new, right, Hannah? So last year, if you guys recall, I was part of a accelerator program called through the Harbor Entrepreneur Center as a founder, and it was a really great experience, great networking, great involvement with the community. And then they asked me to come back as a mentor this year, which is really exciting. So that accelerator program kicked off this week. Super happy to be part of this. Super happy to be a woman representing other women in the community, because I think as mentors, you cannot be what you cannot see. So that's super important. And it's just been really fun to learn about different businesses and different startups in our community. More to come on that next week. Okay. You guys, Hannah Abad is the founder of Hannah Abad Coaching and a 14-year certified expert coach for visionary service-driven leaders, guiding them at a core level out of depletion and burnout into personal resilience, strength, and healthy high achievement. Her proven and proprietary neuroscience and trauma-informed methods have supported thousands of leaders into powerful, lasting transformation. Hannah is a 3-time business owner, coach with the Honor Foundation, and her most meaningful titles are wife and mom. Hannah's warm and authoritative speaking approach developed from a place of diverse personal experience paired with education and passion around the areas of impact in which she serves. Upon walking into hard fought for freedom and restored resilience, she was committed to educating and delivering the pathway forward for other powerful leaders in need, offering root cause, lasting solutions that she had to create when she could not find them for herself. That really resonates for me here. It's so much more than a job, but a passion and a calling that she's honored to share. So, man, I think that is the perfect introduction for you, my friend. I'll hand things over. Share your brilliance. We can't wait to learn from you.
Oh, thank you. Well, genuinely, it's an honor. I mean it when I say it is so much more than a job. It is a joy and it's a calling. And I am just very passionate about serving people who have taken on the incredible responsibility and privilege of being a leader. And one of my just core lines is healthy humans create healthy leaders and healthy leaders change the world. So that is the ripple effect. I love the term you used earlier when you were talking about, Jennifer, your impact in business and how you are dedicated in serving your clients, is seeing that ripple effect. And so just kind of a brief context from me on that as we dive into this. I want you to know, like, I serve I serve visionary, high achieving leaders because I care about the human. And I think the human gets lost so much in the effort to grow and excel as a business leader. And I'm not canceling out the focus on leadership. I'm in fact saying when you are a healthy human, that automatically has transformative impact on your leadership in every aspect of your life, in your relationships, in your health, in your sphere of influence, in your community, and in your business. Because when you as a human are taken care of, everything you touch benefits. And therefore, I do care about you as a healthy leader and the impact that that has. So all that to say, I do not take your time and attention in this space lightly at all. I consider it a privilege. I value your time. So my hope, my prayer is that the conversation we have today is valuable to you, that it has some powerful takeaways. And that's something I'm always committed to. Like Jennifer said, if you want some hot seat coaching, I love that. I love getting into the nitty gritty. I love rolling with the punches. Yeah. So send her a message or Joey and we'll get to it. But when Jennifer and I were talking about today and a topic that would be valuable and impactful, I knew I really wanted to open up this conversation around knowing the difference. Like, we want to start with an awareness and then we're going to move it to implementation or activation, because knowledge by itself doesn't change anything, but we do have to start with the awareness. And I wanted to focus in on knowing the differences as a high achieving leader between what functional survival is and true resilience. Because in my experience with myself and with thousands of clients as at this point, is there's often confusion. There's often a misidentification between the two. And I'm not here to point fingers or lay blame anywhere, but this is really a result of a lot of societal cultural conditioning, where we have all these definitions from whether it's corporate, whether it's, I mean, it's really pervasive throughout all of culture of this is what it looks like to be a high achieving leader. And 90% of the time, the standards that are set, the systems that we're given, the expectations that are created, all of this is really actually feeding into functional survival, not true resilience, which is why I am seeing in my world, in my area of expertise, what I have called an emotional, mental, and nervous system global crisis. Like I am watching people just crash and burn under the load. And where they're thinking, and this is why I'm passionate about this conversation, what it creates is this internal misidentification of I'm the problem. What is wrong with me? What do I need to fix? What do I need to optimize within myself so I can better carry this load? And I have a frank and bold, hard pushback to that of you are not broken. You are not failing, which by the way, those ideas just feed the push even harder. It is, in fact, we're carrying loads that we are not. And this is tends to be an uncomfortable statement for some people, especially high achievers. So don't pull the plug and bail on me now. Okay. It will get better. Just give me a second. We are not actually wired for the loads that we're carrying. We are actually being given loads that we are not wired to carry mentally, emotionally, and in our nervous systems as leaders. And so I want to talk about like, what is the difference then between functional survival and true resilience? Because for us to be a healthy human and a healthy leader, we need resilience. And by resilience, I do not mean the white knuckle, bear through. I'm the person who can take the hit and take the hit and take the hit and keep going. I am the go-to person. I'm the one that go, I don't know how she does it, but I don't know how they do it all, but that is not resilience. That is, in fact, dead giveaway. The flags are going up, marking this is functional survival. So, functional survival, and this can be very, very deceptive on the surface for high capacity, high achieving, high functioning leaders. We have an incredible capacity to carry a heavy load, and we actually seek it out. We thrive on it. We can even get, dare I say, addicted to it because we know how to rise to the challenge, because we have that type A high achieving mechanism in us. I am not saying that's a bad thing. What I am saying is any strength that you carry that is utilized out of balance, overutilized, becomes your greatest enemy. That is what tips us into functional survival. So functional survival in a high achiever does not look like, oh my gosh, I'm hanging on by a thread. My schedule is chaos. I'm frazzled. I can't make decisions. That is what is so deceptive about functional survival. We actually can absolutely have our act together in functional survival. This is where we go like, oh, an added obligation and added commitment on the schedule. I will find a way to make it work. Yes. I will create the systems to support the added load. And boom, this is not healthy high achievement. This is not resilience. That is functional survival. And as I keep emphasizing functional, we're making surviving functional, manageable, something that we can actually handle, but at what cost? And this is where we're actually sacrificing our resilience. Another example of functional survival is where, let's say you have a personal stressor. Let's bring it out of the workplace. Let's bring it out of your business. And you experience a high intensity personal stressor, whether it's like a health issue, the loss of a loved one, a relationship crisis, whatever it may be. And boom, functional survival says, how do I put this in a container so that it doesn't touch or affect anything else? And so we create our container and we hold it there. And everybody goes like, man, it's not even, these are some, it's not even affecting them. Wow. And you go, yep, it's not even affecting my performance at work. And we take on another load. This is not resilience, where the world's definition is resilience is how many hits can you take and keep going? False. That is not resilience. That is functional survival. And here's why we have to stop leaning into functional survival. And what I said about like we can get addicted to it is we as high achievers love to see how much we can do. We love the rush. We love the adrenaline spike. We even love, believe it or not, the cortisol spike that says, oh, increased demand, then I have to increase the juice to power through. And so we do get physiologically, we get adrenaline spikes, we get cortisol spikes that give us the momentary spike of energy to show up for the challenge. But think about if you're doing, and we love it. We're like, look how much I got done in so little time. Or with so little support, look at me go. And we love, it's a high. And then we set that, here's the sneaky part, in the moment of crisis where we get those, where our adrenaline spikes, our cortisol spikes, our brain goes into go mode, our nervous system says, I'm showing up for you. We are in fight or flight to get that energy pumping to get you through this crisis, this momentary stressor. When we hit that peak performance and we see how much we can get done and we get that high of, wow, even with all this going on, look at everything I handled. And I'm not saying that's not appropriate for the crisis point, but the problem is when we hit that peak and we see what we can do, guess what it becomes? Our new standard, our new baseline of, well, I always want to be able to perform at this level. I always want to be able to get this much stuff done, even with all these things coming at me. And now instead of being, hey, we rise to the challenge in the moment and then we come off, which, hey, that's resilience, we stay there. And we say to our emotions, hey, all that anxiety I feel from carrying all this and overwhelm, just push it down so I can keep going. Hey, brain that is multitasking like a beast to handle all these things, guess what? You don't get to go back to the mental clarity and peace of focusing on one thing at a time, like deep think, clear mental space to like ideate, create, explore, to, God forbid I say it, rest and recharge our batteries mentally. Because yes, we need mental rest too. We go, look at everything I was able to do and all that multitasking. So guess what? You're going to stay in multitasking mode all the time because technically I can handle it. And boom, we've agreed to and engaged more with functional survival. To our nervous system, we say, keep giving me that adrenaline, keep feeding me that cortisol, that third cup of coffee that makes me feel like garbage and gives me jitters, but man, it juices me through the day. Let's take that hit. And all of a sudden now we've agreed to, and we've made functional survival our norm and our baseline. And the problem in staying like this, and like I said, from the outside, everybody's like, look at them go. They're so resilient. When in fact, what's happening on the inside is you are depleting your mental, emotional, and nervous system resources heavily. It's like one of the analogies I use in this, think about your capacity, your healthy, not maxed out, healthy capacity and function as a human. Think about it like a bank account. And functional survival is constantly making withdrawals out of your reserves. Constantly. There are no deposits that go back in. It's just going, I'm going to make a withdrawal. Like I need that resource withdrawal. Ooh, I took another hit. I'm going to pull money out to cover that. And it's withdrawal, withdrawal, withdrawal with no deposit back in because there's no time and there's no space for deposits. Because what do deposits look like? Deposits look like mental rest. Let's get really practical. What does mental rest look like? Coming out of multitasking mode. Multitasking is one of the most depleting mental energies you can ever expend. That whole movement, I'm so anti it. That was like heavy in the early 90s, and like personal development and growth was like multitasking. They've tracked it long enough. They're like, it wrecks you. It wrecks your creativity. It wrecks your productivity. It wrecks these things. So when you go, okay, what does a deposit look like? Oh, disengaging from the multitasking, saying, I'm going to give my brain the gift, the luxury, it's a necessity of focusing on one thing at a time. What if I do that? And then we internally go, oh, so what that requires is that I actually only do one thing at a time. And you see how you're starting to come off of that peak of, I'm doing it all. I'm mentally figuring it all out. I'm physically managing all these things at a time. I'm emotionally responding in all these different capacities to all these different things. And you go, one. And your system comes off of that peak. And I'm going to warn you, when you're coming off of that peak, especially if that's been your baseline, if that is your constant standard, it's going to feel really disorienting and really uncomfortable because you're coming out of your normal function. And your system will start to hit the panic button going like, wait a second, don't we do all the things all the time? And you're like, we're creating a new normal, because neuroscientifically, our brain registers change as unsafe. Anything that is new, unfamiliar, or change, the brain automatically flags as unsafe. It likes what is familiar. So you have to discipline your brain to go, nope, this new thing I'm doing and I'm just taking this one example, I am pulling back from doing all the things and I'm focusing on one thing mentally right now. This is safe. This is a new change. There's so much to be gained here, because the brain goes, oh, we're losing something. We're losing productivity. We're losing all the outcomes and the results that visionary leaders love to see. And you're going like, we're not losing results. We're gaining different results. And this is a huge, like, take this nugget, like, it is, stop letting your brain lie to you and say we're losing something, and start focusing on the gain. Because the gain, let's talk about this practically for a second. I'm going to give you an actionable on this to implement. When you are saying mentally, I'm going to disengage from the multitasking, I'm going to create that change, because what I have to gain is mental quiet, mental space, mental focus, mental breathing space. Here is what leaders, visionary leaders, gain every single time. And yes, I say that boldly because I can back it with evidence like crazy. You gain back your mental safety. When we slow down, our brain gains mental safety. And when we are in safety state versus survival state, we get into our peak creativity. So if you think like, what, I'm going to lose all these things, I'm going to lose all the multitasking. What do you have to gain? Your mental creativity, AKA your zone of genius as a leader. And when you're thinking about what the world needs from you, your service, your impact, what you are trying to create, the most beneficial thing that you can bring to the table is your zone of genius. And guess what? Your zone of genius practically operates on two core resources: space and time. So when you're going like, oh, in survival state, what are the two top things that I'm canceling out? Space and time, because it's more. Max out, push harder, do more. You're literally canceling out space and time. When you shift and you go, okay, I'm going to, again, going back to the mental, I'm going to stop multitasking. What you are ultimately creating is the safety to give your mind space and time, which feeds your zone of genius, which allows you to bring your very best to the world. So the liar right now in survival state is more is better. And we're saying, the truth is less is more. We're talking about quality over quantity, which then we can get into this whole idea of like, what do I really value? All the tasks I complete, how much I can pack my time, quantity. Or do I actually value me? And this is again where I go back to my intro at the beginning, me as a human, my innate worth and value, my well-being, which from my nourished space and time, mental well-being, I actually deliver the very best, the thing that is of greatest value, of greatest excellence to the world in my business. So if we make this really practical and you go like, okay, so as a leader, what am I doing with this information practically? And this is, and I'm just like, I'm going for the jugular, but I don't like, why waste time on stuff that's just easy, that doesn't do anything? This one's a little bit difficult, but man, does it deliver. You look at your mental task load and you go, what am I going to automate, eliminate, or delegate to give my mind space and time? And you take inventory of your mental tasks. We're just talking about mental rest. This will also translate practically to your schedule. Like they go hand in hand. How many tasks am I doing that could actually be automated, delegated, or eliminated? Not because I'm lazy. Your brain's going, oh, you're being lazy. You're not being the leader. Yeah, you actually are. It's the bold move of going like, this is what leaders actually do. This is what's going to allow me to bring not quantity, but quality to the table as a leader, which translates into, I mean, we're going to get into this in a little bit later in the conversation, but translates so practically and so strategically into massive benefits in your business. So it's going, okay, that's just the mental. I want to touch really quickly on the emotional and the nervous system as well, like going back to those survival states. It is wild when we come off of that. Let's go to the nervous system for a second. The go mode, the hyperactivation of I'm always going to be up here. The fight or flight, when we're not actually surviving, but the fight or flight is what triggers that adrenaline, the cortisol, to give us that juice to push really hard. Coming off of that and realizing, oh my goodness, when my nervous system is at peace, warning, when you come off of that peak, you're probably going to feel fatigue. Going back to that deposit analogy, like I've been doing withdrawal off of my nervous system. And now I'm starting to make deposits of telling my system like, hey, you can actually rest. I don't need you to go into go mode for me to get stuff done. When you actually are working, producing, showing up in the world from a place of a calm nervous system, you will see a quantifiable difference in the quality of what you produce. Every time. Every time. And it takes the courageous decision to go, what? And this is a mental prompt, a mental shift. This is a neuroscience tool, a mental shift where the brain is going to go, what if I can't produce as much if I'm not like using stress, aka adrenaline, cortisol as my driver in my nervous system? And you go, what if I produce more and produce better from a state of calm? Because let's talk really practically about the body and the nervous system for just a second. We know that the calm state, it's called rest and digest, right? The rest and digest state instead of the fight or flight mode. Those are the two core differences. There are more. We don't have time to get into it. Rest and digest. What does our body do in rest and digest mode? It renews, it restores cells, it generates new things. It takes things from short-term memory to long-term memory. Literally the highest quality work, regenerative work that happens in your body happens in rest and digest. Think about how that applies to you, your daily function, your health and well-being, what your system can do if it's consistently, I'm not saying constantly, consistently operating in that rest and digest mode. Like, look at all the new things I am generating, new ideas, new excitement, fresh inspiration, intrinsic motivation, the intrinsic motivation, the motivation I'm personally aligned with, what that drives me for in a really healthy way, not these external stress motivators. The motivators shift completely differently and you produce something very different. And then in the emotional capacity, when you are not engaging and leaning into anxiety, fear, one of the biggest ones, fear of failure, fear of disappointing others, fear of letting people down, fear of not producing. Fear is an incredibly powerful motivator and a horrible teacher. It teaches us how to get results in the worst possible way. Because it's all, what if you let them down? You're like, not on my watch, and you push. What if I fail? I can't fail, push. That is, going back to the bank analogy, withdrawal, withdrawal, withdrawal. Again, externally, everybody's like, man, look at her go. functional survival, not true resilience. If you actually treat yourself like a human and not a machine, because that's the difference. We're being told, like, operate like a freaking machine, don't have needs, push more, find more ways to get it done. Machine, machine, machine. You go, I am a human being and I'm going to actually operate like one. Going to the emotions, you go, no, I don't want fear to drive the bus. I'm tired of getting results from fear. So what can I exchange that for? Fear, functional survival. What is the alternative in actual resilience? Desire. Desire is a more compelling, neuroscientifically more compelling motivator than fear. And guess what? It puts deposits in your bank versus withdrawals. When you go, instead of thinking about all the things I want to avoid, which fuels my fire to work really hard to avoid those things, failure, disappointing people, whatever it is, what if I leaned into what am I excited to create? What results am I pumped to build into? And boom, now you're leaning into desire, which is so much more resilient, where fear is incredibly rigid. Think about it, like fear is rigid, desire is incredibly resilient. Because desire has flex and margin. Like I tried that, didn't get the results. What do I try now? Because I'm still fiercely committed to my outcome, but radically flexible on how I get there. Fear is a slave driver. It's just like you failed, crack the whip, try again. That's again externally where everybody's like, she just keeps going. She got knocked down and she got right back up. No, that's functional survival. Whereas resilience goes, this is the true thing. That didn't work. Ooh, I'm going to take a minute to process that. I'm going to take a minute to emotionally process, like, I'm disappointed. I'm defeated. I'm discouraged. I'm going to acknowledge it instead of just push it down and use it as full fuel to push me forward. No, you go, man, I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to step back. This is resilience. I'm going to take a step back and go, I need to process that for a second. I need to be human, not a machine, and go, that hurt. Man, that was a gut punch. That was a hard hit. And I'm going to emotionally process it instead of stuffing it down. I'm going to create a little space and margin for that to process it. And it's not a get back up on the horse. It's like, and now what? And our desire brain, because we're allowing it space and time, goes, now what? Oh yeah. What can I try this time? Because I'm fiercely committed to my outcome while radically flexible on how I get there. These are just some of the key differences. I know we're covering a lot. If I can leave you with, there are multiple things I want to leave you with, but practically speaking, with true resilience, you've got to be leaning into it mentally, emotionally, and in your nervous system, because as humans, we are made up of all three systems. If you try to just do it in your head, do it in your emotions, do it in your nervous system, and you don't integrate in all three, you will create friction and frustration in trying to make this shift and move yourself forward. So recognizing, like, okay, for true resilience, all three components I've got to acknowledge and bring all three along for the ride in these shifts. And knowing that that is where, while it takes a little bit longer to bring all three systems together and steer the ship differently, emphatically, I've got to leave you with this truth, is that that is where true breakthrough, not a momentary shift that just shifts right back. That's where true breakthrough and lasting change occurs. Okay, I want to be respectful of time. Jennifer, I'm going to stop there.
My neck is going to hurt from nodding in agreement with you so many times. And I feel like we could have just been doing this one-on-one, because that's how that entire presentation felt. I'm sure that resonated for some of you other ladies on the call. Guys, before I get started, because man, do I have questions. Before I get started, if you have any questions, put it in the chat. If you'd like to do the hot seat, put it in the chat. And if you don't, look, I get it. It is a vulnerable place to be, to put yourself out there like that. So I'll do it if no one else wants to. But I can do this with her anytime I'd like, because I'm lucky like that. I have access to Hannah. If you would like that sort of access, please take advantage. I mean, she's just an unbelievable resource, and will really create a safe space to do that. But again, that's your call. Okay, you
Jennifer,
said a couple.
we don't have any questions in the chat, but someone did message me and volunteer for the hot seat when we get to that, and that was Lilia Sanders.
Oh, awesome, Lilia. I'm so excited. Okay, perfect. Okay, so then let's do this. I want to talk to you about, you said a couple things. You were saying healthy humans make a better leader, and I really want to reiterate this because I've always noticed that when I look back at the times where my business has made leaps and bounds, has grown and expanded and improved and up leveled, right? It's at the end of the day, that's what it is. It is an up level. It is when I have focused on being the best version of myself. Every single time. There is no like, sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. Every time I invest in myself, I see it in every other aspect of my life. So I want to really edify what you said. You said something else. You were talking about being a multitasker. I put this up. You guys, this is always on me. I've always got one of these. I'm a checklist girl. Sometimes I'll do something, but it's not on the list. So then I'll write it down and check it off. Anyone else?
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It's the best. So here's what I thought about. I thought about how many times in the last couple of years I've come back from a vacation. And look, when you have kids, like, is it really a vacation ever? But you come back from a vacation and you say, God, I need a vacation for my vacation. I need some time off because even being out of the office and even being away, you still can't mentally unplug. So I'm going to ask you, and I'm putting you a little bit on the spot there. You talk about creating the space and stopping multitasking, which I firmly believe in, because I think multitasking is a lie that we were fed to keep
Get us to
producing.
do more.
Yeah, no, I don't believe in it at all. There are certain times where you can build on tasks, right? Like habit stack type thing.
Habit stacking, sure.
But multitasking is, it's just a lie to set us up for failure in my mind. So the vacation thing, tell me about what's going on there. And then tell me about like how next time can you create more space for yourself so that you don't come back feeling like, even though it was great, we had fun, I still feel just like I need a break.
Such a good question. So two things right off the top come to mind. One, I always ask and question, like, do you have systems set up in place to cover the things that your mind cares about when you leave office? That simple. Because if you have no systems, how ridiculous is it to tell your brain, hey, turn off and be fully present on your vacation?
Yeah.
Around something that you value, that you care about, that you're invested in. If you don't have systems, your brain must carry the load because anything our brain focuses on is an indication of priority.
Okay.
Right? If our brain can disconnect from it easily, it's probably not high on our value or priority list. Like as soon as I place my grocery order every week, it's off my brain. I don't dwell on it all week. It's like, okay, done. So if something is lingering, if you cannot get it to turn off, you're going, okay, first I recognize this is an indicator of something I value and prioritize, which means it's not a dysfunction or malfunction of my brain. My brain is going, hey, this matters, right? And you're telling me to care about it. So if you have not, getting to my first point, if you have not created a system to care for it instead of your brain won't be able to turn off.
Okay. Fair.
That's just practical because your brain's like, but it's a priority and you value this. So if no one else is going to take care of it, then I have to. So it's that like, I have to make sure when I leave office, there's a system in place for it to care for the thing that I value instead of my brain caring for it, which means thinking about it, not enabling me to be present here. I have to stay present there.
So that also, I mean, now that I think about what you're saying, this is the same for me on weekends too, right? And I think when you work from home, which I clearly do, as you can see
Yep.
by my 10-year-old's Lego flowers back there, you know, it's hard to disconnect because it is in your space, even though I have a separate office and all that. But I'm thinking I'm gonna start making a list for myself of those things that are coming to me that are
Mm.
taking up mental space, and then figuring out how to create a system around them. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm gonna ask you the
Coming up,
three, yeah,
it's a priority. How do I actually support that priority without it all being supported by me?
right.
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask you these three questions, and I want to do these rapid fire so we have enough
Okay.
time to get to Lilia. Um, tell me, what is the biggest misconception about being a high achiever?
Oh my goodness. How do I pick one? Um, I think the biggest misconception that I thematically hear that is externally communicated and internally owned. So it's like externally, the standard is set, the expectation, the everything is set, and we internalize it and own it so deeply is that we're superhuman.
Yeah, well, you were saying like, oh my God, how do you get it all done? How do you do it all? And it just reinforces like that we're superhuman. Exactly.
It keeps feeding this false standard. And what
So
I mean
let
by
me ask you this,
like
because
this
you're
is oh,
saying, oh, they always say she can get it all done, but that's survival, not resilience. What are they
correct.
saying? If you are truly in resilience and like you are truly high, still high achieving, but
Mhm.
showing resilience, what are people saying? Because I think, oh, they're saying she's a hot mess. That's where my brain goes, right? Because
Oh,
I'm
if
thinking, right. That's how I'm like, well, if you can't do it all, then
yeah.
you're just all over the place. But what are people saying? Like when they see someone who's doing it, they're not saying you're doing it all and you're amazing. So what would you hear for that? Be like, oh, that's someone who's really showing a lot of resilience.
Mm-hmm. So here is language. This, trust me, this is not like a pat myself on the back. When I made the shifts, I heard feedback to me, language about me
Yeah.
shift, right? This is the language I started to hear. Wow, you seem so relaxed. Interesting. And I'm going, which truly, let's be honest about it, as a high achiever, we love our badges, we love our medals, we love our trophies. It's just how we're wired. I'm not asking you to not be a high achiever. Let's just be healthy ones. I was like, which badge of honor feels better to me? She does it all or she's relaxed.
Yeah.
Personally, how I feel, and this is me valuing me being a human and not a machine, knowing my innate worth and value as a human, going like, I'll take relaxed. Thank you. Because you know what? I like myself better as a human. I like myself better.
I
I
can honestly say no one
with
has ever
myself.
said
I
I'm
don't feel on
relaxed.
edge. I'm present with I'm like, I'll take relaxed. Here's the thing too. I started getting feedback about the quality of what I was doing. Positive. Instead of, wow, you do it all, they're like, man, you are kick ass at what you do. Again, which badge of honor do I want? She can do it all or she does it really well.
Yeah.
Take excellence over quantity.
Yeah. I love that.
And it gives me the permission to go like, yeah, that's too, it gives me continually, the more I do it, the more I build a comfortable relationship with being like, I'm going to have to say no, that pushes me over the edge. I no longer struggle to set boundaries because boundaries are like, man, that feels good to say, because before I'd be like, that's too much. Oh, that stresses me out. Figure it out anyway. Yes. And the yes comes out. And now I just go, nope, because I have fallen in love with what I have gained, being relaxed, seeing the excellence of what I do increase. When I recognize that those things are being threatened, I have zero hesitation being like, sorry, that's a no. And my ego, you hear all the time, my ego is in the back seat, like silent. It doesn't even faze me when I go, yeah, I can't, that's beyond my capacity.
I
The
love
other
it.
beautiful thing that psychologically it does with the feedback of what people say about you, the language that you get, they respect and appreciate what I do bring to the table more, my time, my energy, my expertise,
Yeah.
because they can't just access it all the time. So they value it more.
Tell me why being a disruptor is so important in this space and in this conversation about resilience and multitasking and high achievers. Why is it so important to do it differently?
Well, I said at the beginning, I cannot unsee the mental, emotional, and nervous system crisis in the world today, especially among the people who are committed to service, visionary leaders. We're the ones who step up to the front, at the very beginning.
Yeah.
It is essential to be a disruptor if we want to see that culture change. We are in a generation of women, a generation of workers, a generation of humans that are saying, you know what, enough is enough. It requires disruption if you want, and I'm like, if you want to not sidestep, but shift, literally, I mean, I could go so deep into this, but like when people talk about the midlife crisis, let's talk about what's feeding the midlife crisis. People hitting around 40 to 50 years old, looking back and going like, what the frick am I doing with my life? Not because they're lazy, not because they haven't accomplished anything. They're looking at accomplishments, performance, and day-to-day function that has produced nothing that they actually value. They don't know who they are anymore because they're just producers and doers. They're looking at results that don't actually contribute to their life, that are actually sucking the life out of them. This is what's on the line. This is why you have to be a disruptor. If you go, I want the quality of my life and the quality of my outcomes to increase and to be aligned with what I actually value and who I want to be as a human. Again, I go back to like relaxed. I want to be relaxed and produce phenomenal things and serve with excellence and be present for my kids and have healthy relationships and not be hijacking my hormones and actually like literally this is the ripple effect. And I want to go in menopause healthy and see my hormonal shifts thrive and me not turn into a woman I don't recognize. That's what I want. So if that's the outcome that I want, I have to be a disruptor. I have to disrupt the status quo and the norm of what is expected, what is set as the standard, and begin to redefine the standard of this is what excellence looks like. This is what peak healthy performance looks like.
Tell me what the number one thing is today. What's the action? So we're high achievers on here, right? If you're on this call, this spoke to you, which means you are most likely a high achiever. So we are action takers. So what is the action that we can take with all of this information today? What can we implement to really start to see that ripple effect?
I'm not going to give multiple things. I'm going to give one thing because our brains love one thing at a time. We are wired for action. So your brain is literally going like, great, what do I do with this? How do I implement? But I'm going to have kind of 2 steps, progressive steps. So you don't have to stop at step 1. So one thing, a couple of steps. First, take space and time, not under pressure, to ask yourself one simple question. From here forward, we're not looking back. We're not referencing past evidence to inform our future. Here forward, for this season of life, because it keep it within reach for your brain, keep it within reach for your emotions, keep it within reach even for your nervous system where you don't trigger the stress response again. How do I define success for myself? Personally and professionally, do not compartmentalize it to your business. Do not compartmentalize it to your personal life. They are commingled, address it accordingly. I had to go like, success to me looks like one of my key words. I want to be peaceful. I felt frazzled, frantic, fried. I was craving on every level, mentally, emotionally, nervous system. I wanted to feel peaceful. It's like success for me means feeling peaceful. It means being actually present to my body. I was literally skipping meals and dehydrated because I was so tuned out for my body's needs because I was go, go, go. I want to be peaceful. I want to be present. That's just an example. And then I got very practical and tactical. Then I asked myself, for that definition of success, this is part 2, for that definition of success to come to fruition, what must change? And then answer that, like go through the inventory.
Yeah.
What do I do every day? What do I do every week? What do I do every month? And in those cycles, in those repetitions, what must change.
I love that.
All requires, if I encapsulate that, because what it will make radically clear is the things that you're doing that are feeding into your definition of success and the things that are sucking the life out of and detracting from your definition of success. And this should all be in the framework of this conversation today of not success in functional survival, success in actual resilience, like operating in true resilience. And this is going to require that practical, tactical thing I mentioned earlier in the call. You must create space and time. This is not a question you can answer under pressure because you'll just go into push mode. Like active rebellion, I'm going to find what I really want to encourage practically is like give yourself like 2 hours to sit with this. Because that's when your brain goes, oh, you're giving me space to ideate, create, explore. Settle into this idea, not like, okay, what's my next goal? No.
Yeah.
My next task to make this change? No. It's giving your mind the ability to be singularly focused, to be desire driven, to go, what do I want? What does success actually mean? And I'm not putting a gun to my head under pressure. I have 30 minutes to task this out. I'm going to sit with this and tune in. What do I really want? What does success really mean? Then I'm going to take inventory and what must change to make that definition of success possible.
I let you go on too long because I'm obsessed with you, but I want to make sure that we
Yes.
go to Lilia.
Let's
And I want to
go.
make sure we have enough time. So we can go to 102 today if everyone's cool with that. Gives us full 60 minutes. But then we are going to have to call it because I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Lilia, can you give us a 60-second intro? I'm so glad you're doing this. If it wasn't you, girl, it's gonna be me. So I'm so glad you're doing this because you're like my mirror anyway. Give us an intro and then let's see what we can hot seat for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for pointing her out to me, Jennifer, last week. Because yeah, she's like really in my business. So my name is my name is Lelia Sanders. I am a fractional CFO and I do high-level bookkeeping for service-based businesses, primarily IT, legal, and healthcare professionals, and anyone looking to buy, sell, merge, or have investments that need to be managed properly.
And
So
in
high
Texas,
intensity.
2 Texas ladies.
I am in Texas. So yes, and I had the privilege of being on here last week. So I feel like Jennifer, you did hit on some things that I was like, well, what next? So Hannah, I feel like I was in survival mode before kids, and then I went through some trauma and it just skyrocketed. And I did realize ego is, man, I did all this by myself. I have a certain level of peace now, to the point where I think what you said, I'm like exhausted. And and I'm not unmotivated, but I could feel now what I'm feeling, if that makes sense, from having to survive for so long. And so now I'm learning what you told Jennifer, having systems in place, navigating, I'm newly engaged, I'm navigating that, but I was in a survival mode as a single mom very pregnant with 2 little ones, like very bad situation I got out of. And that's all I knew. I grew my business that way.
Yeah.
Scaled it down to where I have more balance. And I'm honestly kind of paralyzed with, I don't want to become that person again as I continue to grow. So I pivoted. I'm like literally redoing everything, which I love that you said, Jennifer, when you focus on you, that's when things flourish. So I'm loving who I'm becoming, but I'm honestly nervous of going back to the old. That's all I know. Like even before kids, my ego was, look at how much I can do. And yes, I was so used to people talking about it. And that's just it was kind of my signature. And so for me, now that I came out of that, like you, my peace is so important to me, but I don't even think I really know what that looks like. And so I do like what you said as far as what do I want to start hearing? I love that you were saying that you hear now while you're peaceful, because I want to create peace for my clients through giving through my services, honestly. And so if you have books or references or just something to where somebody who's coming out, and I feel like even with what you're saying, resting, because I was sick just last week when I did it with Jennifer, and I was so still to where I was like, man, I could think, like, what is happening? You know, I was getting ideas and solutions to things, but keeping that, I want to, I guess, tips on how to keep that going and allowing that. And I know you have to make space for things to be who I am because I don't know anything different. All I know is survival. Now I'm
Right.
realizing the piece, but how do I make it a habit, I guess,
Mhm.
and make sure I don't hold myself accountable, I guess, in that area.
So good. So
Oh,
good.
good.
Oh my gosh, like you just said so many good things, and I'm excited about this.
And first, I just want to say, well done on coming out of survival state, because man, it's a beast for all the
It
reasons
is.
you already said it. Like, it's all I know. It's my signature. Like, when we come out of survival, especially if it's chronic long term, most people literally feel like an identity crisis. So like, I don't know who I am, not that way. So
Mhm.
there's that disorientation of I don't know how to function, the disorientation of I don't know who I am, it's all I've ever known, it's how I've gotten my results. So first of all, congratulations on the courage to go, no, like we're done here. I'm not going to keep functioning like this. Second, that fear or nervousness, to use your word, about like, I don't want to go back to that, I don't want to return to that, is very valid, because your system, mentally, emotionally, nervous system, will return to what is familiar, not because it's good, but simply because it's familiar. So a couple of practical things that are so simple for accountability to keep you moving forward instead of returning to what is familiar. One is, I would encourage you, in addition to that, like, success question, this one's super practical. Think about, one of the things that people immediately can like latch onto is, think about the shift that happened in sports psychology for elite athletes. It was like the mid 90s, early 2000s, this became more mainstream. With elite athletes, we're talking Olympians, we're talking like football players going to the Super Bowl. If they were going to the Olympics for the first time, if they were going to play in the Super Bowl for the first time, coaches, not just doing muscle memory of we're going to do the repetitions till you can do it, nail it every time. They brought in sports psychologists to help with a visualization exercise, because this is not, I want you to take, when you write down, like, this is what success looks like for me moving forward, coming from a place of desire, of what you value, what you want. Don't just write it down and then, and don't stop at answering that question of what must change. I want you to start to do a 2 to 3 minute, this is all it takes, 2 to 3 minute daily visualization practice, where you vividly, consistently, and repeatedly visualize it. You see it. Because first, this tells your brain what to pay attention to, because right now it's paying attention to the past of, I don't want to do that again. So it creates the literal, first, the mental shift toward, we're not looking at what we don't want to recreate, we're looking at what we want to create, which then starts to trigger the creativity of the how. It begins to feed the strategy of how you're going to do it. Second, I want you to feel it. Don't just visualize it. Don't stop at visualization. As you drop into it and vividly, repeatedly, and consistently visualize it, feel it. What does this feel like? Because you're going to reorient your emotional state to what it feels like to operate like that. You start to feel peaceful in the unfamiliar. Because remember, brain says unfamiliar is unsafe, and boom, we feel anxious and nervous. If you're orienting your mind to it and it's getting creative, your emotions start to follow, and you start to feel excited instead of nervous. You start to feel motivated instead of stressed. You start to feel peaceful instead of chaotic toward the thing that you're creating. You're creating emotional familiarity, which brings in the positive emotion. And it also hits the nervous system. This is why I love this process and this tool. The nervous system stops flagging it as unfamiliar. And instead of it going into fight or flight of like, ooh, I don't know what to do, this feels scary because it's new, so I need to go into fight or flight, it goes, oh, this feels familiar. Safety state, rest and digest. And we feel in our bodies calm. The other beautiful thing, strategic thing that happens with this is anytime we vividly, repeatedly, and consistently visualize something, our brain starts to take it from an idea, a concept, an inspiration. If you do this minimum of 7 times, that's all it takes. Vividly, repeatedly, consistently visualizing something. The brain, instead of flagging it, instead of categorizing it as an idea or a concept, literally shifts it and labels it as a reality. It no longer knows the difference. When your brain flags it as a reality, guess what we do? We're just like, no big deal. This is just who I am now. It's just what I do. Even if you've never done it before, even if you're doing something new, like, oh, this is who I've always been. This is the way I've always done it. Visualizing it goes, this is who I am, and this is the way I do things, even when you haven't done it yet.
Hannah, I have got to cut you off. You're amazing. I've got to cut you off. I'm so
sorry.
sorry. I know it's okay. You're amazing. I want to thank everyone for coming. We really try very hard to keep this right at an hour for everybody. As you can see, we could go on. If you would like to reach out to Hannah, we've put her contact information in the chat for you. I encourage you all to reach out, follow her on social. Her content is phenomenal. Next week, you guys, we have Stephanie Sidebottom from Wax Creek coming on. She is known as the brand futurist, and she's going to be talking about combining brand strategy plus AI for your business. Obviously, everyone's talking about AI in a lot of different ways, and I'm excited to hear about how she's going to share that. Allison also had put a great recommendation about a 5-minute journal to follow Hannah's advice. So I definitely recommend that. I have that journal. It's phenomenal. You guys, thank you so much for being here. I hope you all have the very best day. Hannah, you're incredible. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.